checking it out. Oh, cool mug.
Oh, thanks. My parents for Christmas gave me a box of Star Wars mugs.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, you're a big Star Wars fan.
Yeah, it's all just yeah, I love Star Wars. I love Star Wars. More than anybody should.
Well, I do too. I mean, I'm not as obsessive as some people, but I just, with anything from when I was a kid, if I loved it then, I give a lot of it a pass. I even give the prequels kind of a pass.
Yeah, no, I like the prequels. I think the perfect Star Wars movies are. Hold on, I gotta put this phone to the side here. Give me one.
No problem. I'm just gonna say we'll just include this as part of it because I like the way this is going already. So
yeah. Let me put that to the side. I opened a bar recently, and it's a nonstop text stream, but which is a good thing. But I just want to put it aside so I'm not distracted for a moment. But
no problem.
but yeah, Star Wars. I think I break Star Wars into movies into two categories. Ones that I think are flawless, and then ones that I'm not crazy about but have cool parts. So I think the like front to back solid ones for the most part. It's Revenge of the Sith, New Hope, Empire, Jedi, Force Awakens, and then the bookends of Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, and then Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. They have their moments, but there's a lot that I don't like and that I would do differently. But that said, I prefer Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones to Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker.
Interesting.
But or at least Attack of the Clones I would put above the other three. But and then like I love Solo. I think Solo and Rogue One are great, but I don't really.
Solo was one. Yeah, I think it just Solo was hindered by the negativity towards Last Jedi. By hardcore fans, and it just came out too soon. And I thought that was as close to the spirit of A New Hope as any of them had gotten.
I agree. The second, like I saw it on opening night.
Yeah.
And I was by myself. I was on the road, and I went to a midnight screening on opening night. And the second that, what was her name? Lady something, whatever that alien is in the beginning that like runs the like camp where they keep all the kids. The second like that as soon as they did that scene and she like pops out of the water, I was like, oh man, this is like totally like Return of the Jedi. Like this feels like Star Wars to me.
Yeah.
And then it never let up after that. I loved the whole thing. I think it's an awesome movie. I really did.
Yeah. It's amazing it turned out as well as it did, considering it was the second. I mean, they completely remade that film, which is unheard of nowadays.
I know. And so I'm and Rogue One is cool too. But Rogue One's a little more, it's a little less fun and a little more like, it's like a real war movie, a little dry, but it's good. It's really good.
Yeah, man. I think that one's the one that goes to the most places in a single film. I mean, they go to like 12, 14 different planets.
Yeah.
Across the whole span, which is, kind of rare for a Star Wars film. Usually they concentrate on a few.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I love Star Wars. I'm watching Boba Fett now, and not too. It's okay. It's okay. It's a little bit of a slow start.
It's not driving me nuts because I don't like the back and forth between. I'm not really digging the back and forth between his memories and the current one. I don't feel like doesn't feel like it's going somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and he just said in an interview that it is. He's like, "Don't worry, like there's a moving forward story that's gonna, which I'm assuming will start this week because there's only 4 episodes left. But I'm not crazy that they're making him now into this anti-hero. Like, I was okay with him not being a bounty hunter anymore. I thought it was cool that he was going to be a gangster and a crime lord. But they're going a little, at least so far, they're going a little too far with this, like, I rule with respect thing.
Yeah.
Where it's like, dude, I guess, like, that's cool and all, but, like, I don't know. I never liked any of the, aside from the fact that it brought Darth Maul into the mix on Clone Wars. I never really liked any of the Mandalore backstory stuff. I thought, like, they expanded that way too much and, like, justified, or, like, created this whole story and legacy that I just didn't need. And then, like, what was cool to me about Boba Fett was when they brought him back in Mandalorian, I was like, okay, at least there's that scene where that woman is like, I forget her name, but she's like, you're a traitor, like, go, like, grovel at the feet of your empire or whatever. Like, I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, because he's like, fuck you, I'm not part of this whole stupid legacy thing.
Yeah.
But now, like, they're kind of making him just like the Mandalorian, where it's like he's like too honorable, and, like, I don't know, like, I don't, like, maybe that'll change, but
Yeah, it could. I mean, there's aspects of it I think are cool. I mean, there's a lot of things that have been cool. I love the. I know some people know. I couldn't even remember his name to save my life, but the gladiator Wookiee I thought was cool.
He's awesome.
Yeah, it was cool seeing Trejo pop up. And Rancor show up, and I did like the stuff with the Sand People and the, you know, that kind of thing, but it just feels like it's disconnected in a lot of ways. And maybe it's because the part of the charm of Boba Fett was the fact that he was barely on screen and he still registered in people's minds for so long, and then now he's getting over explained.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like, he's real fast and loose with taking the helmet off, which, like, I feel like when he's in town, like when he goes into the, like, Mos Espa and all that shit to, like, lay down the law, it's like that you should not be taking that helmet off, man. Like, there should be some mystery here.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, I realize is how nerdy that is of me, but
and trust me, yes, exactly. Yeah. I think that may be a conscious effort to differentiate it from Mandalorian, where you can never take off the helmet and blah, blah, blah.
And that's the thing. Like, and to this day, like, I never got the fucking point of Mandalorian. Like, the only thing I could think of is they didn't know what they were going to do with Boba Fett, and they tried to do, like, a parallel thing. And then as it went along, they realized we're going to just bring Boba Fett into this. And
yeah.
But, like, I don't give, now that, like when Luke showed up at the end of Mandalorian and took Baby Yoda away, I'm like, I don't give a rat's ass about any of this anymore. Like, that's all I cared about was where Baby Yoda was taking him and, like, what Jedi were going to come into the fold. And it was best case scenario. It was an awesome episode. And is Boba Fett coming back? And he did. And after that, I was like, I don't give a fuck. Like, if they're going to do a third season now with the Mandalorian, I don't care about that character at all. Like, I don't give a shit about that guy.
I don't know. I don't know for myself. I definitely like the first two seasons. I like the character myself, but a friend of mine who's a friend since like six years old. We were Star Wars nuts. We used to act it out in my parents' basement and stuff. I mean, so that's like that's our connective tissue from the beginning. And he said he tried watching The Mandalorian. He gave up on it. So, I mean, you know.
I thought the first season was painfully boring. I thought the special effects were terrible, and I thought the music sucked. Just everything about that first season I thought sucked because it all felt like almost Star Wars to me. It was like, I'm watching a Mandalorian I don't care about because he's not Boba Fett. I'm seeing a baby Yoda. It's not Yoda. I don't really care. Like, they're on these desert planets that aren't Tatooine. I don't care. Like, everything was sort of almost Star Wars. And then in the second season, because they started before it came out teasing that Boba Fett was going to come back, that's when I cared. And when he showed up when the armor showed up in that first episode, and then he showed up at the end, that's when I was like, okay, now I give a shit. But it was all, I was there 100% for Boba Fett. I wanted to see what's her face from the Clone Wars come back.
Yeah, I know who the character you're talking about. The Katie Sackhoff plays her.
No, well, she was great as the
you're talking about Ahsoka.
Ahsoka. I was there for Ahsoka. I was there to see which of the Katie Sackhoff is the Mando, the other Mando, whatever. Like those were the characters I cared about. The dark saber, like all of that shit. Like, and then once they fulfilled all of it, I was just like, yeah, I don't like unless you're going to be side by side with Luke in the next season. I don't give a shit anymore.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where it goes. Nobody has any idea, but you said some, and I don't want to take the whole conversation up with stuff.
No, sorry, yeah.
But I figured we'll kind of start putting a pin on this, but because I'm as much a fan as you are, I have to keep talking about it for some reason. But the thing I said recently on social media, I'm like, I do like these series so far. I like the fact that, I like The Mandalorian. I like Book of Boba Fett enough. I'll put it in some of the Star Wars film categories that I like. I can watch and enjoy parts of, but maybe I don't love, like you were saying. And then Obi-Wan's coming out with a series, and I'm like, can we get a damn show that gets the hell away from Tatooine?
They love Tatooine, and I don't like, to the point of like, that was one of the things in Force Awakens I just didn't understand. It's like, why is it called Jakku and it's a different planet, but it looks exactly like Tatooine? Like, why not just put her on Tatooine, or don't, or make a new planet that's kind of cool, but like sort of barren in its own way or whatever, like Hoth was awesome. Like that was like the polar, literally, no pun intended, the polar opposite of Tatooine. So it's like in this first movie, you get this desert planet, and in the second movie, you get an ice planet, and then like I loved Camino, like where it's like a rain planet, like, there were being a giant forest, and like Coruscant, a giant city. Like I thought I liked that whole thing, and that was one of the things I didn't get with Force Awakens. I was like, why are you just making a new desert planet? This doesn't make any sense.
Well, and then they just had another Death Star. I mean, there's small things, but at least the reason why the Force Awakens holds up so well for me is because it really has that spirit that the original films had. It did the right thing. It was new enough, but it had, it really zips along pretty well. And it also has one of the great, the killing off Han Solo in that dramatic fashion was really kind of not wonderful as in but it was dramatically great.
No, it's a Han Solo movie, which is awesome. The ending with Luke is awesome.
Yeah.
Like, and then they fucked it up. But like, but like if that movie ending there, I'm like, that's a perfect ending. And then if they came along and said, now here's an alternate version of what happens with Luke from that moment forward, I think you could really fix that fucking where that trilogy went wrong. I think Rian Johnson really took a shit in the middle of that thing. And if J.J. Abrams had just been a part of it from the start,
it would have been more coherent.
Yeah, and it would, and then the third one wouldn't have been like this, like pieced together fan service weird, like which
Course
when I
correction.
Like it would have just been a proper trilogy, but anyway, that's Star Wars.
Yes.
I have a question for you.
Go ahead.
How the fuck do you get this talent pool on this pod? Jesus Christ, man. I was going through the episodes. I'm like, you got crazy fucking people on this podcast. What's your secret?
Determination. You have no idea. You have no idea how many emails I send out to get.
God bless.
I send out hundreds a month to get like 4 guests.
But I mean, the guests you're getting. I think I saw David Duchovny. I saw.
I lucked out.
Wild.
I lucked out on Duchovny. He came out with an album. and I said, and it was a music PR. I used to write mostly about music, and then I
Uh-huh.
left the food business in Chicago for Eater and Thrillist for a while, and I stopped doing all of that for a while, and then I kind of picked this up during COVID because everybody was doing, everybody went on to Zoom, and I'm like, well, this is perfect. I can start doing this and maybe get more people. But yeah, it's just sheer determination.
Here's my other question. Did you, maybe it's not your Facebook page, but I think it is because it has the same
Probably.
profile picture that your website has, but your link on your Facebook page goes to porn. I don't know if you know that or not.
Oh, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, it says like rock, the website's there, rockandrollghost.com or whatever. And when you click on it, it goes to a porn page.
Oh, I forgot to take that off.
Yeah.
That site's gone. I didn't realize it was still on there, but somebody must have taken it over.
Oh, yeah, porn people took it over.
Great.
And it's funny. It literally at the top of the page it takes you to, it just says porn, the word porn, and then there's clips. There's no, it's not called like,
I'll have to take that off.
tube or anything like that. It literally just says porn.
I'll have to take that off because I am working on a new site for the show.
Yeah, well, there you go.
I just screwed up by letting that lapse.
That's all right.
Christ. Well,
that's fine.
That might be part of my problem.
For a second, I was like, maybe this guy does porn too. I don't know.
No.
But
no porn here.
But anyway.
Well, we didn't really say who you were. This is Joe DeRosa. He's a well-known comedian, and he has a bar/sandwich shop open now in New York City called Joey Roses.
Yes.
And that's mainly what he's here to talk about. He's blowing up, actually. He's getting a lot of good publicity out there. And then the reason why I'm having you on is for both, the fact that I like you as a comedian and a guest on other people's shows and to talk about the sandwich shop. And so how long have you been open now? A couple months? Few months?
Well, we opened on Black Friday, and today is January 17th. So almost
we're on 2 months.
Yeah, almost. And it's so
you've
far
been doing
so good.
Pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, no complaints so far. Say again?
Are you surprised by how well it's been received?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I believed in my partner Paul and my business partner Paul and I. Obviously, we believed in the idea, or we wouldn't have done it because it's not a small undertaking. It's a stressful experience with an incredible amount of moving parts that I was unaware of until we started down the road to opening this place. In fact, I'm glad I was unaware of them because honestly, had it been presented to me initially, and had I known, I would not. I think I would have backed away from it. I think I would have been too intimidated. But once you're in it, and that's it, And now that we're through that part, I'm thrilled that we did it. But it was definitely a transformative period. It was a lot of learning, and I'm very lucky to be partnered with a guy that really knows the industry and was able to really guide us through. But so that all said, I am surprised by the response, because you do something and you think that it's a good idea, and then you put it out in the world, and you hope, you fingers crossed, hope it goes well. But I've been in the entertainment business long enough at this point to, I think, you sort of become accustomed to expecting the worst, so you can accept it if it happens, because it's such a dice roll all the time, whether it's putting out a special or an album or being part of a TV show or whatever it is. You never know, podcasts, you never know how it's going to be received. And it's always a good amount of work, and you can't get your hopes up, and you can't go into it going, this is going to be the best thing. You just have to believe in what you're doing and believe in the process and carry it through by doing your best and all that stuff. And And then, like I said, you release it to the world and you go, I hope people respond to it. You know,
Yeah.
what can you do? Um, but so that's how it was with this too. And so I'm very, very touched by this, the strong response and the fact that we're getting regulars. And, you know, we had two women in the bar last night. I went in for a few hours and they drove from Ohio.
Mhm.
You know, it's like, you know, people came in yesterday that were from Toronto. Now that, you know, they didn't fly from Toronto just to come to the bar, you know, but the fact that they were like, no, this is like was on our to-do list in New York, like
Yeah.
it's touching, man.
Yeah, there's all that stuff, other stuff to do in New York. I mean, to be that
Plenty to do.
people, for people to say, "Hey, I'm coming to New York, and this is one of the things I'm doing," and you just,
Yeah.
I mean, that's great.
Yeah, I'm very, very, very flattered by the experience.
Yeah. Now, you know, I know that you, because the first time I think I heard you on anything was probably. Have you ever been on Jim and Sam's show?
Oh yeah, yeah, many times.
Okay, so it was either Jim and Sam or it was The Bonfire, which I love shows.
Yeah.
I know you've been on The Bonfire a lot. You've been like, you know, like usually sometimes you'll fill in for whoever isn't there too.
Yeah, usually if Dan's not there, I co-host with Jay. And then I
Yeah.
was when the lockdown first happened, uh I sat in on the show for like 2 months, I think it was, like
Yeah.
just as like the third mic. It was fun. I love those guys. I love Jim and Sam.
It's a hell of a fun show. But
Yeah.
I remember you talking about the sandwich idea then and the pop-up. But what prompted, I mean, have you just been, since you could remember, a guy that loves making sandwiches and coming up with new things, or what started this whole idea?
I've always loved sandwiches. Delis and hoagie shops, you know, were a big thing growing up on the East Coast in the Philadelphia area. They were a big part of my childhood. And I just always loved sandwiches. But it's funny, my family was it was just a big part of our it was like a regiment. It was part of our regiment. Like sandwiches were just a part of our you know, our meal regiment. Like once a week you got hoagies from whatever local shop, or you went to the Jewish deli and got corned beef sandwiches, or you know, very frequently in my family, when we go to my Nana's house in particular, and you know, and me and my parents and my aunts and uncles and cousins, whatever, and she would put out like a deli spread and rolls, and you just make sandwiches, you know, like that was the afternoon meal. And I always loved that. I always got excited by a deli tray. Unfortunately, you know, you usually only saw them at funerals. But it was just a big part of you know, my experience growing up. So it's a food that I love, or type of food that I love. And as I got older, I just, you know, stayed an enthusiast of sandwiches, and got more, you know, once I, you know, you get a car and you can drive, and then you travel because of work, and you have your own money and all these things, you know, I started to seek out sandwiches and be a little more proactive. So like when I went on the road, that was one thing I would do is, you know, what's the best sandwich in town? Like what's the place you got to get, you know, and trying the local thing and whatever it was. And I just had a passion for it, but never in the sense of I'm going to do something with it, you know. And then one day, my friend Becky Donahue, who's a producer and a comedian, said, you know, I think she wanted to help me do a Facebook show for my Facebook page. And she said, you know, what do you think you could do? Like, what would be a good idea? And I said, you know, I like sandwiches a lot. Like, why don't we make sandwiches? And we'll call it Hoagie's Heroes will be the name of the show. And she's like, I love it. That's fun. And like, you know, whatever. And we did a few of these videos, and I would give her the sandwich I made. And she was always like, dude, this is really good. This is really, really good. Like, so I just kind of started to think like, you know what? maybe I should write down exactly what I did
Yeah.
so I don't forget. And then like before you know it, you have a page of sandwich recipes. And I found myself making them for myself. And once you have that many, you start to think like, well, I don't know, it would be cool to have a shop one day, but it's a pipe dream, you know. It's like,
yeah. Well, you have a successful career as a comedian. I mean, you know, people know who you are. You've had specials and stuff, so it's like the idea of pivoting in any way, you know, it's like would probably seem also like career suicide in some way too in the back of your head, like, you know.
there was a little bit of this is, I mean, we went through a lot of iterations of what it was going to be and how it would work and all that stuff. But you know, we did the initial pop-up because I mentioned basically what I just said to you, a much more truncated version of it, to Paul, my partner, very passively, not with any interest in let's do this. I just was like just talking. Yeah. And he was like, why don't we do a pop-up at the stand? Like, show me your recipes. And I showed them to him. And he's like, we're going to do a pop-up at the Stand Comedy Club. That's what we're going to do. And I was like, okay. I didn't even know what a pop-up was. I was like, what does that mean? Like, I thought it meant literally you had like a pop-up stand, like literally a booth. Yeah. And he's like, no, it's just like we'll add you on certain days at certain times to the menu, and it'll be like a special menu, and people come in and they can get it. And I said, okay.
Paul works with the Stand?
Paul Talia is one of the owners of the Stand.
Right. Okay. That's right.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, you know, like let's do it. And I was like, you know, it's like we're not gonna like use me to sell it. Like we're like, it's just gonna be its own thing. Like I don't want to have any connection to it. And he was like, no, we're 100% going to use you to sell it. Like, that's what's interesting about this. And I, you know, as flattering as that may be to hear, like, I don't think that. I still don't think that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just like, no, it's like, who cares if my, you know, whatever. But and that's not fake humility, honestly. Like I really was saying, like, I don't want to be like the face. I was cringing at the idea of it because I felt like, honestly, I felt like it looked arrogant. Yeah. And it looked like, well, who does he think he is? Right. You know? And but he's like, no, you're gonna be the face of this thing, whatever. And I was like, you know, eventually he convinced me, and I was like, okay, like, you know this stuff better than I do, so let's just do it. And we did it, and it was a weird period, you know. Like, look, it was a way to spin the tragic aspects of reality to work in our favor. You know, everything was locked down. It was a horrible time. It also presented itself as a time that you could explore something new, and it wouldn't look that insane, and you had the time to do it. Yeah, which is what we capitalized on. You know, and it was kind of funny. Like people, you know, I would be behind the sandwich counter and comics would come into the stand during the day to get lunch or something, or for a meeting or to go, whatever it was. And I remember Cypher Sounds came in and he saw me behind the counter and he's like, is everything okay, man? Like, that's what he said. And he was like, what, you work here now? I was like, no. I was like, I'm doing a sandwich pop-up. And he was like, oh, that's dope, man. I want to come get a sandwich. And that was kind of the response from all the comedians. Big J Okerson was very vocally supportive. And he was I believe he was our very first customer. But he was incredibly supportive, like from the jump. He thought it was so cool. He thought it was such a cool idea. He was really like elated by the whole thing and incredibly supportive, and I appreciate it greatly. But like comics in general were like, and the fans were, and it became this kind of like cool thing that the comedy scene was supporting, and then it bled out from there, you know? Yeah.
Well, that's really good PR. That's really good press then, because if you got
it helped,
you know, if you got comedians across the board, you know, whoever on their social media saying, "Hey, you know, if you're in New York, check out the Sandwich Shop by Joe DeRosa. It's like, I mean, you're getting kind of a lot of coverage that way.
And it helped. It really helped. Like right out of the gate, like people that were just coming through, like Michael Costa came, Emma Willman, Aaliyah Janine, Christina Hutchinson, Corinne Fisher. Like people were just coming through. It was really nice. And then, you know, like I said, then and also the fans were coming too.
Yeah.
And it just kind of bled out and expanded. And, you know, Paul and I, given the response, you know, he was like, we should think about opening like a brick and mortar, because now's the time when we're going to get an affordable deal in Manhattan on rent.
Yeah.
Because there were so many vacancies. So he's like, if we're going to do it, like we should do it. So we did. And in the process of that, you know, we both share a great love for neighborhood sort of corner bars, you know. And we said, let's make it a bar too, and really give a full experience to people, and just be an awesome like social club style bar that's a throwback to old New York, that's affordable. You know, people need affordable stuff right now more than ever. And that also has these awesome sandwiches, you know, like and that's how it all came together. And you know, to see it through is pretty wild. I think we launched the pop-up. Jesus God, I think we only launched the pop-up not this past November, the one before, or October.
Yeah.
And in April we signed the lease. And the following November, which is the one that just passed, we opened the store. So it's like wild. Yeah, like it's so funny because it seems like it seemed like it took forever because it's so intense.
Yeah.
And there's so much shit to do. Like it seems like it just seems like an eternity when you're trying to get the place open. And then you look back and you go, my God almighty, it was a year from like the pop-up's first day to the opening of the actual establishment, which is so nuts to about, you know.
Well, what's the operation like? I mean, how many people you got working there? Like
small. We usually have one bartender on, and then one person in the kitchen on food.
Really?
Yeah, and then you know, Paul or myself is usually floating around at some point. But it's a pretty small operation. It's very familial. You know, it's a great team. It's a great staff. Everybody's really willing to like. We're very, very lucky. Like we've got an incredible crew of people who are extraordinarily enthusiastic about the idea and have a lot of experience that they are bringing to the table and sharing with us and going above and beyond what they need to be doing to help us see this through and make it work.
Yeah.
So I'm very, very grateful for that, because that's a big part of it too. I didn't want to open a place that was just going to be, you know, you walk in and there's a bartender there, sure, and you can get food, sure, but there's no personal experience to it. Like I want it. When we interviewed people, we talked about that. We were like, you know, it's not like you got to stand behind the bar and do some kind of routine, but like, this is going to be a spot. Like we want you interacting with the customers. Like we want people saying, so-and-so is my favorite bartender.
Yeah.
It's that kind of place, you know?
Yeah.
And we put a lot of thought into the details of that and how to make that work and all that stuff. So, you know, it's still a learning experience. It's still incredible. And we're still working out, you know, you're always tightening the screws and ironing out the creases. But I got to say, so far, so good. It's been a really wonderful experience.
Yeah. Now, what's the size? What's the capacity limit inside?
I forget the exact number. I forget the fire code number, but it's off the top of my head. But it's not huge.
Yeah.
You know, I'd say about 40 people total, you know,
Well, it's probably more than
could fit comfortably in there, you know.
Yeah.
But we're
yeah. Not that there's probably 40 people in there at one time necessarily, considering the time.
No, usually though, it's, you know, at a busy time, there'll be like somewhere between 20 and 30 in there. And that feels pretty, you know, it feels busy. It doesn't feel crowded. It feels busy. So that's good. But you know, that was part of it too. We didn't want to open. The place is a little bigger than we initially envisioned. Like we initially were just going to do like I'm talking like a 10-seater thing, like with a bar, you know, 10 bar stools and a window to serve out of. And, you know, you know, just this place presented itself and we ended up going in and it actually suited us very well. So we did it. But this is definitely bigger than we initially thought, you know. It was going to be a really small operation.
Yeah. But you know, you could only wait so long and, you know, something presents itself. And like you said, it in the downturn that we're in, like, you know, getting a spot now is the better time than to not get one, I guess.
Yeah, no, I'm glad we did what we did. I'm glad we're at where we're at. Like it was all the right moves for several different reasons. We have great neighbors. We're at 174 Rivington Street in New York, which is the Lower East Side. And we're on a killer block. We're right next to a coffee shop called Black Cat. The whole crew there is amazing. Great neighbors. We're across catty corner across from a great bar restaurant called Black Crescent. They've been amazing. Like everybody's been so welcoming and helpful, and it feels very communal. It's nice, man. It's really nice. It feels like the way New York should feel to me. Like, you know, it feels neighborhoody. It feels like people aren't out for themselves. Everybody's business cares about the other guy's business. You want to see people doing well, you know. And, you know, I think the Lower East Side is one of the areas of New York City where that still occurs, which is really nice, you know, because there are areas in New York that have become, I love the city. It's my favorite place in the world, but it doesn't mean that there aren't areas that have become, you know, sort of sterile and you know, big boxy and whatever. And I'm not against, you know, I'm not one of these crusaders against Target or anything like that. You know what I mean? Or a Walmart.
There's a place for everything, I suppose.
Yeah, like department stores, big box stores. You need a Best Buy. You know, like sometimes you need a Best Buy. Like it's like, you know, it can't always be the kitschy, we sell vintage stereo receivers place. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm not against any of that, but I think New York had gotten to a place where it was becoming more of that. And I see it seems now it's at least having a chance to shift back in the other direction a bit, which I think is great, you know?
Yeah, well, a lot of that had to do with how expensive it is to do in New York. I mean, to own and operate a place. I mean, one of the, from my understanding, one of the few places that's not undergone any kind of change really so far is the Bronx, and I'm sure that's next, you know, in some regard.
Yeah, the Bronx seems to remain sort of untouched. But who knows? I'm not up there very often, so maybe I'm, you know, maybe we're wrong. Maybe that it is, but yeah.
Well, I talked to a guy recently that lives there, a musician, and he was saying that, you know, it seems to him that it hasn't really gone anywhere. So
okay,
you know, but that's, you know, I mean, even Queens, you know, is started the trend, because where else is everybody going to go after Brooklyn got completely changed? I mean, you know.
Yeah, it's funny. It seems like the Brooklyn rents are starting to finally even out again, because it was insane for a minute. Like, and it's still more than it should be, but like 5-6 years ago, it was. I think they said that Williamsburg was inflating. The rent was inflating at a rate of like 30% a year or something. It was insanity. people were moving back into Manhattan because they couldn't afford Brooklyn, which is batshit. But but anyway, I love this city. I love New York. I feel like, I feel like it's one of the last true cities. Like, I feel like Philly's another. I feel like Chicago's another. Like there's a few.
Yeah.
Is Chicago becoming? I have a lot of fun when I go to Chicago, but I only.
Yeah, I've lived here my whole life, and there's a certain. The city itself has been infiltrated with a certain level of BS, I think.
Sure.
There's still great things, but like, that classic Chicago accent is all but dead.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And it's just like, I just always thought we were going to be a no BS city. And I think it's just a generational thing, like the new generation kind of came in and they all wanted their shiny, new condos and big buildings, so everything gets torn down and
that's a bummer.
Up and all that stuff. Is the same kind of thing that happened, a lot in Brooklyn, Williamsburg, that kind of thing. It's like the heart of everything kind of shifted, and so I don't know. I've thought about moving to New Orleans for a while because I want to get the hell out of here, but I haven't pulled the trigger yet.
I think you'll hear the same thing in New Orleans, though. You know what I mean? I think it's any city. I think, I have friends that live in New Orleans. They love New Orleans, but at the same time, they'll be like, fucking Bourbon Street and the goddamn tourists. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's every city's got its thing, but my definition of a good city is, can I have an adventure? Can I have an adventurous evening in it? Is there enough cool stuff? Is it concentrated? I hate sprawling, spread out cities. It's why I was never a big fan of LA, because it just feels like a giant suburb. It doesn't feel like a city in any way.
Yeah.
There are parts that I like. Atlanta, I like the people quite a bit in Atlanta, but geographically as a city, I'm not the biggest fan because, again, it feels like a big suburb to me, or a big town.
Yeah.
I really like concentrated, like Chicago. I like when shit's on top of other shit,
Yeah.
That's what I like about New York. That's what I like about Chicago. That's what I like about Philly. New Orleans is definitely like that,
Yeah.
So in areas it is, but yeah, so.
Oh, sorry. I thought.
That's it. That's all I got.
You stopped shorter than I thought you were.
That's okay.
How many sandwiches are you selling at the store right now, and do you run specials?
Right now, it's the original menu, the hard eight sandwiches for $8 a piece.
Deal.
Specials sometimes, like right now we're doing a 20% off online orders special.
Yeah.
Because some people don't want to leave the house right now. Some people are a little freaked out. Also, it's asshole cold here right now. So, part of the whole original vision was to give people something that was quality at an undeniably great price. So, $8, we really we did everything we could to make it the best sandwich experience for that low a price.
Yeah.
So, we tried to, I guess what I'm saying is we tried to build the special into the sandwich.
Gotcha.
Now, other items that we're working on now that we're going to add are going to be a little pricier because they'll take a little bit more to concoct. But these 8 are going to stay at 8, and they'll always be an option. And then we also do drink specials every day. Right now we're doing all day happy hour, pretty consistently. Because again, we're just, we're trying to give people if you're asking somebody to leave their house and come in for a drink, give them a good reason to leave their house and come in for a drink. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, but it's been fun, man. It's been fun. It's fun having a spot. It's really fun having a spot. Yeah. So, Come on out, Joey Roses, and go to joeyrosesnyc.com for all information about the place itself and hours of operation, and to order online for delivery or pickup, everything you need.
Yeah, I'll definitely be including all those links
Thanks.
as well. I just wanted to ask you like one more question.
Sure.
I know you're busy, you gotta get going, but how has comedy been for you during this whole thing?
Good, man. I haven't been really doing much over the last couple of months because I was so focused on this, and then also the holidays, But I'm about to go on the road again. End of this month, I'm in Buffalo, New York at Helium Comedy Club. First weekend of February, I'm at Bananas in New Jersey. March, I'm at the Punchline in Philly. And then I have other dates coming up too. You can get, just to plug, you can get all links and info and tickets at joederosainfo.com. But that's kind of, those shows are kind of the first foray back out into the wild of stand-up. I got a lot of stuff left over from an hour that I actually recorded in Chicago that I was going to release, and then the pandemic hit and I didn't put it out. So a lot of that got sort of reworked into this new hour, and I've got other new stuff that I'm working on, and then a couple bits and pieces of things that I felt like, from previous stuff that I felt like could use a little more showcasing, and that's kind of it. Like, so I'm just gonna kind of go out and see how this new material works and whatever. But it's funny, it's like I never thought I'd be in the position again where comedy was not the first thing on my mind.
Yeah.
That's how it was in the beginning, because I had a job and I had to worry about the day job, because you got to keep your lights on, obviously, and you need to eat. So comedy was the secondary thought, because I was passionate about it and I loved it, but I wasn't making any money from it. So that's where it had to remain. And now it's weird. I'm kind of in that place again where I'm like, now I have this other focus with this place. In comedy, I do make money from comedy, but like going out and doing it again is like, it's not that I don't care, and not that I'm dismissive of it, but it is sort of in that weird secondary place for the moment.
Interesting.
Which is why I'm interested and enthusiastic about going on the road again. I'm kind of just going out one weekend a month. Austin. I'll be in Austin in May at the Creek and Cave. So like, I'm doing one weekend a month, just kind of, like going out, doing 4 shows, 5 shows, and seeing how it works. You know what I mean? Just feeling it out. And that's it,
Yeah. How are you doing anything in New York? Like, are you going to pop up anywhere?
I'm going to start doing sets again.
To keep yourself fresh.
Yeah. I was doing them religiously in New York up until we opened. Yeah. Once we opened, I was like, I got to focus on this. We're now almost at a point where I feel like, okay, I could probably start doing sets in New York again. Yeah. I could be doing sets in New York again. The only reason I'm not is because I get a little easily distracted, and I want to just make sure this machine is as well oiled as possible. For some reason, it feels different to have a nighttime commitment in New York with a set versus going away for a couple days. Because once you go away, then it's like, then you just got to let it go.
Yeah.
That's it. You're not there. It's a little harder for me to concentrate when I'm in town. Yeah. So yeah, but soon I'll be doing those again.
All right. Well, Joe, I really appreciate you taking the time today, and I'll just promise to you, if you want, next time you're in Chicago and you got some time, if you have any time to spare, there's a few places I'm sure you haven't been to that, whether it be sandwiches or not, that I would be thrilled to take you to.
Sure.
Check out.
Great. Yeah. Awesome. I would love that.
Yeah, because there's plenty of places that, people, you can look it up and stuff, but I mean, generally most people from out of town, need to be steered somewhere. So
Yeah.
so the place is Joey Rose's. It's now open. It's got your $8 sandwiches and alcohol specials, and it's becoming a huge hit. And I'm very happy to hear that for you.
Thanks, brother. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you. You have a good rest of your day, man.
You too. See ya.
All right, bye.